Shall we get going? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to meeting number 105 of the New York State Canal Recreationway Commission, here held at our Canal Corporation offices in North Syracuse, town of Salina, right? Town of Salina. It seems like an outpost compared to the canal, but it is a beautiful place. Just let me begin by saying what a pleasure it is to have everybody back with us in person today. We have not met for nearly 3 years. Part of that is due to COVID, and part of that are other issues. I'm sure that will come up during the meeting today. But it is so good to have everybody with us here today. And I particularly would like to thank those of you who have traveled from faraway distances along the canal corridor to make it in person. Mayor Georgie, thank you very much from our northern outpost in Whitehall. Montour Falls is known as the Key West of the canal because it is the southernmost point, and Whitehall, I haven't figured out what the name of Whitehall is, but it's a beautiful community. It's the northernmost point. Actually, Plattsburgh, just if you count the wall, the terminal wall, that's in Plattsburgh, because we want to name Whitehall as the northern outpost. So, and thank you, all of you who are on our screen today, commissioners and members of the public tuning in, members of NYPA and Canal Corporation staff tuning in today. I hope everybody can see us and hear us through the magic of our technological link by Zoom, and we hope that's been great. So as I have said, it has been 3 years, nearly 3 years, it'll be 3 years in November since the Canal Recreationway Commission last met in 2018 at the Red Mill Inn in Baldwinsville on Lock 24. So we were going to be talking a good deal about that, about the CRC and other issues as we go forward. We will have a motion to accept the minutes from the 2018 meeting. We will move into presentations on Reimagine the Canals. We also are going to hear from the governor's office and Caitlin O'Leary, who is here, who is Governor Cuomo's senior advisor for environment and energy issues. The section under which we report in the executive chamber. So Katie, thank you for being here today, for traveling all the way from Albany, and for doing so. We know it's not easy to get out of the Capitol, so we appreciate all that you did to get out of the Capitol and come join us here on the canal in Syracuse. So we're going to hear from our Reimagine the Canals program. We will hear from Vince S. Zito, seated to my right, who is our Assistant General Counsel. Thank you for thank cards. And he will be giving us an update on the trust legislation, prospective on the legislation that we talked about earlier this year. Also seated to my left is Rebecca Hughes. Rebecca is our newly joined, but 3 months into the job, I think now. Senior Director for Public Engagement, and she has engaged with many of you and has traveled the canal far and wide, east and west, north and south. There's always more to see. So we're going to be hearing from Rebecca also, sort of jumping around on my notes. So with that, before we get started with the meat of the meeting, let's do our usual introductions, and I'll start with myself. My name is Brian Stratton. I am the Director of the New York State Canal Corporation and the Acting Chair of the Canal Recreation Commission. So let's start with Commissioner Michelle Renard. Michelle, introduce yourself, and we'll go around the table. And then we'll do the table first, and then we'll do the back of the table. Okay. And then we'll do online. I'm sorry.
Michelle Renard, have been in the hospitality industry for more than 30 years. Also with some state service in there as well. And currently keeps me busy as chair of the board of directors of the Albany Convention Center.
Thank you, Michelle. And Francis Shorty, of course, formerly known as White Canal, by Holly York, former mayor, and restaurant owner now and store owner. So maybe we should retire sometime.
It is a fabulous place. If you've not been to Mayor Georgie's restaurant, what's the name again, Mayor?
Rail Yard Restaurant.
Rail Yard Restaurant. It's a wonderful place to dine, get out of Dodge and go to the rail yard, right?
Excellent.
Good.
Thank you, Director Shad. It's an honor and privilege to help rejoin and get our bicentennial back on track. Since 2014, seems like yesterday. Very exciting opportunities. The Great Empire Trail and the Canal Recreationway is truly an unparalleled economic asset. The necklace, priceless jewels, statewide.
Steve, tell us what you do for your day job.
I'm a professional planner with the Albany County Airport Authority, graduate from Cornell, planning programs through Stein, founder of this Canalway Recreation Commission back in the early 90s, I believe,
Right.
was mentored. So I'm trying to carry his vision forward as his students. They're great, but so I'm a professional planner.
Okay, we see the Brian.
Good afternoon, everybody. Brian Sayas, I'm the Senior Vice President of Power Supply for NIPA. Been with NIPA about 20 years, mostly in hydroelectric, and a little bit of transmission, but for the past 6 months, I got involved out with the canal, which is great. We actually had a couple of small hydro units around Albany, that's what we should vary. So quite a bit of experience with the canal on that side of things, but now I'm just excited to be able to get involved with the entire canal and learn all the parts that I never really got to go through before. So great to be here.
Angela Chandler, I'm the Vice President of Planning at NIPA for Reimagine Canals. I'm leading the initiative. I'm an architect and I've been at NIPA for just over a year. Very excited to be with you all.
Ela Leary, Senior Policy Advisor for the Energy Environment for the Governor's Office. The NIPA Canal fall under our portfolio, and it's lovely working with Director Stratton and the rest of the team. I've been with the Governor's Office close to 3 years now, so we worked on Reimagine Canal and other initiatives prior.
We'll come back to you
Yeah.
after we get to
Yep.
our introductions.
Rebecca Hughes, as Brian indicated, I'm new to the Canal Corporation, but I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm just so pleased to have met all of all the stakeholders that I've had a chance to connect with so far, and it's just been really exciting to get to know the canal system and the towns and villages along the way, and I really look forward to getting to know the rest of you who I'm connected with yet.
Can everybody hear us on the screen? Are our voices loud enough? Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you, Rebecca. That's it.
Thank you, Brian. My name is Vince Esposito. I'm Assistant General Counsel with the New York Power Authority. I've been with NIPA since 2009, and I provide legal advice to both the Power Authority on a host of matters and to our teammates in the Canal Corporation as well. It's a pleasure to meet everyone finally in person. The way the Zoom stuff, for the most part, interact on a personal level is great.
I'm Dave Mellon. I'm the regional manager for the Canal Corporation, so I oversee all the operations and engineering of the Canal Corporation. I've been here a little more than 4 years, so I'm still learning about the Canal Corporation. There's lots to learn. It's such a complex, large system. There's many challenges I was talking about a little bit. It's nice to meet everybody this afternoon.
My name is Natalie Stetson. I am by day the executive director of the Erie Canal Museum, which is right in downtown Syracuse, New York. I have been a commissioner now since March, I think. So I am the newest member to this, and I am looking forward to learning and what our role is and how I can participate.
My name is Dan Miles. I wear a number of canal hats today. I'm going to do the old man of the CRC hat. I've been on the CRC for 23 years, so I've seen it in a lot of its versions, and I'm excited to see where it's going to head in the future, and I think that's why they put it next to me.
That's great. Hello, everyone. Cal Wysakowski. I'm from Canandaigua, New York. Stu Stein, amazing man. I worked with him when I was in Ithaca for many, many years with Cornell University and planning, and he was just in the forefront of so many things. So we have that in common, continuing. My background is in economic development. I've been doing business development and economic development for decades.
Formerly in Fairport.
Formerly in Fairport, one of the great canal communities, among others. I'm very, very happy with what continues on in Fairport and other communities. I'm also involved with the Canal Society of New York State, CRC, and I'm currently the vice chair of the Erie Canalway National Heritage Fund. So, yeah, lots of great stuff going on, and it's wonderful to see everyone here today.
Thank you, Cal. We're so happy to have you with us. Mike, why don't you introduce yourself and then we'll go back.
Fair enough. Mike Cambasco, IT for New York Power Authority and subsidiary organization Canal. I don't know, about 5 years. A lot of you look familiar and new faces. I think it's my world.
Mike was in the Albany office for 4 years.
2 or 3.
3 years, and then moved from Syracuse to Albany, and now moved from Albany back to Syracuse. So
Chase the money.
Thank you, Peter.
Peter Wiles, formerly with Mid Lakes Navigation Company, now retired after 50 years. I'm also Dan's brother. At this point, my activities relating to the canal is that I'm still on the board of directors of an organization called Canal New York. I am also a commissioner in the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor Commission, although I'm not representing either of them today, because I am also just a lifelong voter on the canal, and that's what my greatest interest is right now.
Thank you, Peter. Greg.
Greg Williams with the Canal Society of New York State.
Okay, Shane. Oh, I'm sorry, Kim.
Kim Martello, Special Assistant to the Director of the Canal Corporation. Jackie Schillinger, Manager of Government Community Relations for the Canal Corporation.
Shane Mahar, Communication Strategy Manager for Reimagining Canals, and the lead public information officer for the Canal Corporation.
Thank you very much, Shane. Now we're going to go to the screen, and we do have 2 commissioners on the screen and also members of the public and support staff. So let's, on our screen, we see Doug Cole in the upper left hand. So Doug, we're going to start with you to introduce yourself, Commissioner Cole.
Yes, hi, Doug Cole, professional engineer, 28 years experience, and I live in Schenectady County.
That's a fine place. Commissioner Ken DeRoller, legislator from Orleans County. Commissioner?
Yes, hello, everyone. Great to see everybody back in action here. Orleans County legislator currently for 8 years and also on the economic development for 20. And the canal is I'm very passionate about. And I'm glad to see NYPA in some of the leadership role here. So thank you.
Thank you, Ken. It's always good to have you with us. And thank you again for being with us when we had our event in Medina about a month ago. Working our way across the screen, Captain Tammy Pointing Grimes. Captain?
I am Captain Tammy Pointing Grimes from the Colonial Belle Tour Boat. I'm also a member of the board for Canal New York, and I'm also a member of the board for the Fairport Parrington Merchants Association.
Thank you very much. Working my way down left to right in the middle row, Laura DeBetta is from State Parks. Laura. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I think you're double muted. It might be
Double
the
muted.
phone and the computer.
Okay, we're not hearing you.
Sorry, I got it.
Now we're hearing you.
Sorry, used to WebEx, not Zoom. Okay, I'll get it right eventually. Just in time for the COVID to be over. So I'm Laura DeBetta, Director of Outdoor Recreation with the State Department of Environmental Conservation. I'm also a hopeful commissioner someday, maybe, on the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor Commission. So nice to see you all today.
Okay, Mark, you're next.
Hi, Mark Castiglione. I'm from the Capital District Regional Planning Commission. I'm also currently serving as the president of the New York Upstate chapter of the American Planning Association, representing more than 700 professional and lay planners throughout upstate New York.
We also have with us from the Canal Corporation, the Power Authority, our second council of the day, Peter Casper. Peter, introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Pete Casper. I've been with the NYPA and Canal Corporation for 3 years now. I work with Vince. I'm the liaison for the legal department. Before that, I was with DEC as their deputy general counsel and had the pleasure of working with Laura. And before that, I was back at the Thruway and Canal and worked with many of you. So it's good to see you again. And I'm also a Schenectady County, city of Schenectady resident. And behind me is the Erie Canal, which I paddle almost daily. So I'm very passionate about the canal system.
That's great. Rick Rivers.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rick Rivers with the Rivers Organization, Association Management and Event Planning Company. I am also the administrator for Canal New York and also a member of the Canal Society of New York State. Glad to be attending today. Thank you.
Rick for being with us. Fred Bond from the Finger Lakes.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. If only I'd known my old friend Michelle Venard was going to be there, I would have reprioritized. Michelle, good to see you. Director Stratton, great to hear your voice. My name is Fred Bond. I'm the regional director for the Finger Lakes State Park System, the Finger Lakes region, a member of the Erie Canalway National Heritage Area, representing Commissioner Eric Kulisade and State Parks. And recently, I was up at Lock 32 with my kayak a couple weeks ago and thoroughly enjoyed that experience for the first time. Really quite a bit of fun. My wife and I live right in between Seneca and Cayuga Lake, so we're halfway between the two lakes that are part of the canal system. And great to see everybody. Great to be with you this afternoon.
Lot 32 would be Pittsburgh. Is that correct, Fred?
That's true. There's a little sluiceway that they created, a whitewater park right around Lock 32. It was really enjoyable on a 90-degree day.
That was one of our staycation destinations last year, so we're glad that you checked that out. David Barone from State Parks. David, introduce yourself.
Hello there, David Barone, New York State Parks, and like Fred, I'm here representing our commissioner, Eric Kulisade, and just happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Also from the Canal Corporation, part of our own team from Albany, Alyssa Outerkirk, who runs our social media. Alyssa, please fill in the gaps that I didn't cover.
Hi, everyone. Elisa Outerkirk. I am a pretty new employee here at NYPA, and I have been managing internal communications and social media for the canals. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And if everybody is not signed up, you need to sign up to all of the canal's social media pages. Lisa does a fantastic job. There's more content than you ever thought possible, from more angles and more opportunities to learn about our canal system. So Lisa, thank you for everything you do to make us look good. Let's go on to Jeannie Gleisner from Central New York. Jeannie.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you all after such a long time. My name is Jeannie Gleisner. I am a program manager with the Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board. And I've been trying to get to most commission meetings that I can make in the last several years. Sort of related to the canal and now connected to the canal, I'm on the Sanctuary Advisory Council for the proposed Lake Ontario National Marine Sanctuary, which we hope will be designated in the near future. So that's another kind of great connection to our canal system. Hopefully we'll go through. Anyway, I'm happy to be back.
We are happy to have you back. Thank you so much for being with us today and tuning in from your home. It looks like a lovely place. We also have two folks with us, or three folks with us. I see names on the screen if they want to introduce themselves. Jamie DeLuca and Joseph Rivera and Glenn Martinez. Gentlemen. Jamie, I know you're shy, but introduce
Afternoon, everybody. I'm Jamie DeLuca. I'm the Director of Technical Services with Canal Corporation. Technical Services oversees real property, IT, and records management. I've been with Canals for approximately 27 years. Thank you.
If Glenn and
Joseph Rivera here. I'll represent myself and Glenn, manager of Unified Communications. We're IT support, making sure you guys are 100% satisfied with your meeting today. So enjoy.
Thank you. They know who to go after now, right? And Glenn, thank you.
Glenn Martinez as well, Unified Communications Team. We're here in White Plains, New York, here to support your meeting.
Thank you very much. We've got great support through Mike, Glenn, and Joe here to make sure that our meeting is spotless and technically sustainable. So thank you all for being with us. You go back to part of my script where we need to proceed. I am informed that we have a forum. Okay, I'm informed we have a quorum, so meeting number 105 is officially underway here of the Canal Recreationway Commission. And our first item today, our first action item will be the approval of the minutes from our last meeting held some 32 months ago on November 19th, 2018 at the Red Mill Inn, the beautiful Red Mill Inn at Lot 24, which is now closed. So Mayor Torkey, if you want to add that to your holdings, you can add that to the restaurant. It's a beautiful place. It's up for sale, and it's a lovely spot. And I say that in jest, but I'm sure it won't stay vacant long. So we have distributed a copy of those minutes. Not that I don't doubt for a moment that the meeting is still fresh in your mind and all of the details of it, but I hope that you have all by now had the opportunity to review the minutes, and we will open it up for a motion to accept the minutes from meeting number 104. Moved by Commissioner Iapetta, second by Commissioner Torte. It is moved to second. Discussion on the minutes. Any discussion on the minutes of that meeting? If not, all those in favor of accepting the minutes say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. The mission passes. Excuse me. The motion passes, and the mission. Well, the mission is still to be achieved. So thank you very much. And at this time, I would like to go back and reintroduce to you Katie O'Leary, Caitlin O'Leary, who is the Senior Policy Advisor to Governor Cuomo under the Executive Chamber's Energy and Environment team. I've had the pleasure of knowing Katie for many, many years, and she is no stranger to the Canal. She formerly worked with the Governor's senior advisor and was instrumental in helping us put on several Erie Canal by San Antonio forums, but now she has moved up to even to a higher position within the Executive Chamber. In fact, we now report to her. So we are here, and we are very happy that she has driven all the way from Albany. She knows the issues that we face, and we are on the Zoom and on the phone with her at least on a weekly basis. Members of our team are on with your team every call, but to say that she keeps us on a short leash, I don't know if I would go that far, but we do have a lot of interaction, and it is a great team to work with. And I've been in this position 10 years now, and I've never had more interaction positively. So we're the chamber team. I'm so happy to have you with us. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Caitlin for some comments. Thank you.
We wanted to start off by saying I am very thankful that all of you have joined us at the recent PRC. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to come back together after everything we experienced this past year and a half. Now I know Director Stratton has mentioned that we've worked together throughout the years of my time in the governor's office. Canal is a priority and will continue to be with the governor and our entire team. It is a team effort across the entire state to continue the great work that's underway. And I'm looking forward to hearing from all of our speakers, the commissioners, the as well as the general public. Lastly, I want to thank you all for your continued partnership with the CRC, NIPA, Canal, and the governor's office. Together, we can work together to ensure the success of the Canal system for future generations.
Caitlin, thank you very much. I know we'll have an opportunity for comments and questions at the end of the meeting, rather than taking it after each of our speakers. We'll get into an opportunity for the end, unless we won't get through the meeting. So, Caitlin, thank you so much for that. Some of you may have not had the opportunity to meet her yet, but Rebecca Hughes is with us today as our Senior Director of Public and Engagement. She has come to the Canal Corporation for 4 years at the Power Authority, our parent organization, where she led marketing and customer and engagement for several business areas, and from the New York State Energy and Research Development Authority, NYSERDA, where she led workforce development programs for 8 years. Before that, I can tell you that she has wasted no time in getting out on the canal and traveling the canal. We've walked several miles together. She's done all of those miles by car. Still has to do nautical miles, right, Captain Wiles?
Absolutely.
Yes. So we're going to endeavor to fire up tugboats and get that punch card going too. But she has really had a great opportunity to get out and Oswego for the Canal New York meeting. I've taken her to Phoenix. I've taken her to Utica coffee roasters. I think I've tried to hit the high spots. We are still able to get to Whitehall there and introduce her to you there, but she has got a passion for the canal, and she has canal in her blood and her lineage, which is, game over as far as I'm concerned. I spent 10 years doing this, but I don't come from canal heritage. So it is my great pleasure to introduce our newest colleague and our friend, Rebecca Hughes.
Thank you, Director Stratton, and good afternoon, commissioners and other attendees. As Brian said, I recently came over to Canal Corporation and lead public engagement. In my mind, this is really a role to bridge between Reimagine the Canals and the philosophical and programmatic approach that we're taking forward in coming years with operation of the traditional canal system led by Dave Mellon. So I'm really pleased to sit here between my colleagues and as part of this really dedicated team. My team that I'm building within Canal Corporation, I've got really the rock stars of this group here today with Shane Kumar and Jackie Schellinger, as well as Mike Sullivan and Liz McAndrew, who's got a real passion for access, diversity, and inclusion. And my intent for this team is that we develop a Canal Corporation practice of public engagement. So going beyond, response to emergent needs or occasional convenings, but to really build a more dedicated practice of engaging communities along the canal. And I know that we have the right people to do that. Nick Nelson in Western New York too. I'm sorry to have neglected to list him as a new member of the team, but I've met a lot of you individually. I've been doing a lot of discovery work, and I'm so impressed with the passion and dedication of those that care about the canal system. And I think we're all very aligned in our desire to really sustain the canal system for future generations. And I think you'll find, as we work on the agenda for today, the theme in my mind is around transparency. So stepping forward in this first reconvening of the CRC, and actually, Mike, if you would just advance along to the CRC reconvening slide, please. It's really about creating a space for an open and productive dialogue. It's not always going to be kumbaya, and that's okay. We're smart people with a lot of passion and a lot of dedication around this table. And, this is the first step in reconvening our regular quarterly meeting. So please know that we'll resume regular business. We'll look at real property transactions and the things that are required in statute beginning next time. But we thought for this meeting, it was important just to come back to the table, talk about some of the actions that have transpired over the last couple of years, and then to cast our sights forward and think about how we can ensure that this group has not only its statutory function, but can play a really meaningful role. So, we'll look forward to talking with you about your vision for how you see the commission interacting with the Canal Corporation and, how you'd like to define your own capacity in that way. We can work, we can establish working groups on specific topics as you guys see fit. And we'll also at the end, talk a little bit about establishing dates, but we'd like to get our next few dates to round out the year and the next few quarters on the calendar to ensure that you can plan ahead for those, travel, be in person if you can, and ensure that we can achieve a quorum. And we also recognize that with the exception of Natalie, everyone's terms are currently expired technically. We're gonna move forward, and we'll address terms at a later date. But we're just thrilled to have you all back to the table, and thank you for your patience, and we look forward to the future conversations. So with that, Brian.
Thank you, Rebecca. Mentioned the most fun part. Rebecca found out after she joined the Canal Corporation that her 5 times rate rainfall was a lock tender at 145 Frankfurt on the Erie Canal on final days of the a large canal project from 1905 to 1910.
I believe he passed in 1910. I have to verify that. But yeah, Brian, he loves to throw my street cred out there for everyone to establish my role in this community. I will work on more of an academic paper to explore this more. It's just been a really fun discovery, and I'd love to share it with you guys at the right venue in the future, whether at a conference or otherwise. But it's it really, I think as New Yorkers, most of us live in proximity to the canal. A lot of us have roots that go back generations, and I bet with a really wonderful genealogist great aunt like I have, a lot of you would discover canal heritage too. So I think it's part of being a lifelong New Yorker, part of having family roots here. So it's been really fun bonus.
I think it's worth also the family mentioned the Schenectady, the Schenectady connection here today, and then the other suburbs along the way. But, that is wonderful. We're hoping that she will enlighten us further at the March symposium. So it's more of a well-researched, interesting words and all story about her family. Great grandfather. So obviously credentials go way beyond that, but I get excited about that stuff. So Rebecca, thank you so much. I know we've had the opportunity to meet with our CRC commissioners. And we're absolutely serious about traveling the canal. So if you don't see us at all, we'll be out there. We have an opportunities to do so. 2.5 years is a long time for us to have been away from each other. A lot has happened along the canal since then. And you may know that we opened up our season, 197th season on May 15th. No sooner did we open up than we had a whole beautiful flotilla of mega yachts going through Waterford. Then 2 days later, Block 17 came to a crashing halt. It didn't crash, but it stopped working. And Lock 17, as you know, has got one of the highest lifts along the barge canal system, 45 feet, I believe, is the elevation. And the large guard gate at the eastern end of that go down, and the piers are so old that there are no parts for them. So the part had to be fabricated. We had to bring in 40-ton crane to be able to lift that lock. And about a week later, after we had given all of our wealthy boat owners the opportunity to shop and to spend money in Little Falls, this is all strategic. We try to get money into our canal. It's absolutely not. That is not true. It just happens, but they love them. So that is sort of an example of what our challenges have been. But here to provide you an update with much more. We're actually closed today at about a 70-mile section of the canal from Waterford to Frankfurt due to high water, not anything operational from a mechanical standpoint, but because of the dangerous levels of the water. We've had nothing but rain the past several days, the past weeks. So that a near accident once 12, but that turned out well. So it is my pleasure now to introduce you to Dave Mellon, who is our regional manager for the New York State Canal Corporation, and he is a professional and engineer, and he is in charge of all the maintenance and the operations, day-to-day operations of the canal system, all of the locks, all the lift bridges, and the guard gates, the sluice ways, and everything else. Dave, it's a pleasure to have you with us to present to the CRC.
Thanks, Brian. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to be talking a little bit high-level look at budgeting for canals and the portfolio of our assets. Take a look at the screen here. At this point, we are investing $90 million annually into our operations and maintenance budget. And that's the part of the budget that is operating locks, routine maintenance, the vegetation work, all that. It's predominantly labor. We've got around 430 permanent employees and a seasonal staff of around 60 or 70 employees. Combined with the 90 million, we also invest on the order of 40 to 50 million dollars annually. We're actually working on our 22 budget this week. But the combined total is on the order of $140 million a year putting into the canal. The chart on the right, you look at the left, the y-axis on the left, that kind of shows the dollar amount, but the x-axis on the bottom, that's the time period. The blue represents the O&M budget, and the orange represents the capital budget. When the canal system, Canal Corporation came to the power for January 1st, 2017. There was a lot of assessments going on at that time. We were trying to understand what the complexities of the system, the overall condition of the portfolio. So there was an increase to the capital and O&M spend right out of the gate. It continues today. And the increase, is basically done with public safety and worker safety at the heart of our investment. So that's where we're at right now. I think that, the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about assets. But in general, we are spending more now than we have in the past. Okay, now this slide, there's a lot to talk about on this slide. The canal system, this goes to the health of our overall portfolio of assets. We all know the system is over 500 miles long, but what you may not know is that, if we exclude all the vehicles that we own, all the vessels that we own, all the construction equipment that we own, we have approximately 2,800 pieces of civil infrastructure. Each one of them owns an asset. So it could be a wastewater, it could be a barricade, it could be a section of earth and embankment, it could be a culvert beneath the canal. But there's 2,800 of these things that together comprise the canal system. There has been a historic backlog of maintenance and capital work, and it's never ending, and it's significant. Most of the, if you say how old are all the assets in canals, well, they're either, in general, 100 years old, and some, unfortunately, are almost 200 years old. I think a larger part of the whole is in the 100-year, range of the barge canal, but that's the order of magnitude. It's not 30 or 40 or 50 years old. It's much older than that. And so a lot of the assets today are, at or well beyond their useful service life. Now, that's a term that engineers use. There are estimates, how long, if you design a bridge, how long should the bridge, how long is it intended to last? Well, if you think about all the assets at canals, there's a lot of concrete and steel and earth and water. Okay, how long do these things last in a northeastern climate? Well, you could say 60, you could say 80, you could say 100. I think you would still be in the kind of territory. 100 might be pushing it. But to say that you designed something and it was intended to last 150 years, that would raise eyebrows, in most engineering circles. So if you take a look at this chart, it's kind of hard to see, but the left or the y-axis of the chart is basically the general condition rating. And the general condition ratings go from 7 on the 7 is excellent condition. 5 is good condition. 3 is poor. 1 is serious. Serious is on the edge of imminent failure or not even coming close to serving its intended function. So you've got the general condition rating of the assets on the left, and you've got on the x-axis time. Basically shows the last 50 years from 1970 to 2020. And on the top of the chart, you've got, under what jurisdiction was the Canal Corporation, DOT, Freeway, or Power Authority. Now, in canals, we have a somewhat rigorous inspection program. So we do, right now, we're doing probably between 400 to 450 inspections a year. So an inspection is nothing more than a professional engineer goes, visits an asset, goes through a rigorous check of various elements of an asset. For example, a lock has 60 elements that we put into when we inspect a lock. Okay, so professional engineers perform these 400 some inspections per year. And all the dots that you see on the chart, each dot represents one inspection. So there are approximately 20,000 dots on that graph. And the blue line represents the average condition rating of all 2,800 assets at every point in time. So you can see that from 1970 that the average condition rating of all assets was a 6, or between good and excellent. And you can see that today the average condition rating of all assets is a 3.8 approximately, which is between poor and fair. Granted, it's closer to fair. Okay, but there's, that's what's happened over the last 50 years. So you can see that the starting point in general for the Canal Corporation management of the canal system, keeping everything safe as canals comes to NIPA, it's not the most desirable in terms of general condition.
Dave, what would be the assets that are below 1? You've got some dots from all of those years over that span, but particularly in the last several years, you've got a few dots.
Yeah.
What would that be? Things that fail.
The lowest rating that we have is 1, so I don't know the answer to that.
The things that we have already fixed are things that cost us problems.
Like the 1's the lowest rating, so I'm not quite sure how that was. But the essence of the meaning of the chart doesn't change. You can see how the density is decreased over time. So if you go to the next slide. Now this slide is somewhat representative of the current state. In that if you have a significant portion of the portfolio at the fair and poor range in terms of the condition, unexpected failures or challenges are going to present themselves more often than they would if you were where your average condition rate was more like a 6 or a 7. So these 3 events came upon us in May of this year. And you can see that you've got the spillway washout at E29 that happened on May 10th. And then 3 days later, we had an embankment seepage problem at Rockport. And on the 22nd of May, we had gear failures that Brian just mentioned. And so if you go to the Palmyra, that was a big portion of the embankment adjacent to a spillway washed out. The water levels were higher at the time, but when that failed, then the spillway became undermined. And now we've got a big problem. Those that following that were just at the end of building earth and concrete out there to get the pool between 29 and 30 back to the normal pool. The embankment seepage at Rockport had been a leak that had been monitored for almost a decade, and it took a turn for the worse and started leaking more. So we had to react, and we had to install 300 million feet of steel sheet piling to control the leak. Gear at Little Falls, that gear is actually 7 foot in diameter. The gear broke upon routine operation of the gate. So that, as Brian said, we had to get a crane out there to operate the lock, and the gear was repaired, and now it's back in service. So this is kind of what it looks like for us. We're encountering more and more of these pieces of emergent work that our team has to respond to. And all of this, of course, takes time and resources. The Next slide, please. Go right past that. So in the midst of the overall portfolio, our jobs of managing this and keeping the public safe, then we go back to the capital program. And this slide and the next one are just kind of two highlights of work that we've accomplished as part of our capital program. And this one that you're looking at here is a 3-year project at Lock 7 in Oswego. This is basically rehabilitation of the Lock at the Oswego Canal. And the rehabilitation includes full depth replacement of portions of the lock walls at either end, rehabilitation of the walls themselves inside the chamber, new miter gates, new mechanicals, new electrical, a new lock house. And this project was around $28 million total over 3 years. It's complete now. So that's one asset that's back in action, closer to a 6 or 7 versus a 3. Next slide, Mike. And also, as part of our recent efforts on the capital side of things, there's the numerous projects we had to help complete the Empire State Trail system. We basically participated with many state agencies, the DOT, the Freeway Authority, the Hudson River Valley Greenway, the MTA, and others. So we basically were part of a statewide team under the governor's direction. We had numerous trail projects that we were responsible for. By December of 2020, we had delivered our projects, and we are proud to be part of that. The trail system, I think, is awesome. Just really, plays right into the water, and it just makes the whole thing that much more attractive. So that's a big thing for us to be part of that. That concludes my comments.
We're going to take questions at the end for you. Thank you, Dave, for that. Just touched on some of the challenges that we have. Obviously, when you talk about the $28 million that was spent to rehabilitate and to fix up Lock 07 on the Oswego Canal, that was not a total rebuild. That was really fixing it to level 6 or level 7. And when you think about what the canal was built for between 1905 and 1918, $150 million, Greg, roughly. And you talk about today's dollars, $28 million to rehabilitate one lock, one out of 57 locks, and it's absolutely huge. And again, point back to the beginning of Dave's presentation, showing the tremendous increase in capital dollars that have gone into the canal system under NIPA over the last 3.5 years. But also the assessing of the need for that investment gives you an idea of the challenges that we continue to face. So Dave, thank you very much for that. And we can come back to you at the end of the meeting. We will move forward now, and of course, one of the most exciting things that has been happening in the past 3.5 years under the governor is the governor's Reimagine the Canals Initiative program, a $300 million project that was passed as part of the 2019 legislative session, I believe, and it is committed to reimagining our canal to increase its economic opportunity, resiliency, safety, and to make it a economic engine going forward to the next century. And Angela Chandler is leading that effort up. She is our vice president for planning for Reimagine the canal. She is here to provide an update on the latest Reimagine projects and some of the other exciting things that we have ongoing under the Reimagine portfolio.
Thank you. As shown here are 3 of the economic development projects that we're currently working on, but we're also coordinating canal resiliency projects, such as the 2 pilots we completed this year and last, one for ice breaking on the Mohawk and one for fishing on the canal tributaries in the Western region. So we're lighting up canal infrastructure The image shown here is the Fairport Lift Bridge. We'll also be illuminating the Little Falls Lift Walk that we showed with the computer earlier, and the two lighthouses on Oneida Lake at Verona Beach and Burton. We're aiming to have ribbon cuttings this fall for all of those projects. In Brockport, we're in sign on a new pedestrian bridge across the canal that will connect the SUNY Brockport campus with the recently completed Empire State Trail. And we're, sorry, the other side of the canal. And in Canastota, preferred developer has been selected for the Pocket Residential Neighborhood. This project was one of the two winners of the 2017 Reimagine the Canal competition. Next, please. So similar to last year's staycations program, this summer we're offering a new program of excursions called On the Canals. On the Canals is a set of free canal-sponsored opportunities for families to recreate on the canal and the Empire State Trail. We have a dedicated website for the program, which is where you can sign up for the excursions and where you can find information about other recreational opportunities and attractions in the areas of the excursions and where you can eat and drink. The aim of this program is to get new and more visitors to the canal and the communities along the canal. We launched the program in June, and we already have sold out situations, and that is in Amsterdam. So if you are interested, be sure to sign up as soon as possible at canals.ny.gov/on-the-canals. Next slide, please. So in this program, we have 6 different excursions in 5 different locations. 2 are in Medina, and they get visitors on the canal and Glenwood Lake in kayaks and hydro bikes. And this includes guided fishing instruction. We have one in Palmyra, Macedon, that includes a kayak tour with a guide who recounts the history of the canal, and where biking on the Empire State Trail is also an option. We have another one in Waterloo that combines biking on the Cayuga Seneca Trail with a water taxi ride on the canal. Another in the Montezuma Wetlands that offers a guided birding tour by kayak. And finally, a kayak and bike loop in Amsterdam. And this is the one that is sold out. So we're looking at adding more dates now. So that will open up. That's it. Thank you.
These are great opportunities for you to get out on the canal if you haven't. This is an expanded, an expansion built upon the great success of last year's staycation program. They're longer excursions, more comprehensive, and they're wider spread. And Yankee Lock is a great place. We were there to announce that beginning. And Schuylerville, camping on the canals at Lock C5 on Champlain Canal. Cal, you have your daughters very close there. Good opportunity for you to visit and have a little space to camp out at Lock C5. It's a beautiful spot, so we hope that we look forward to this going on. And it's great that they are sold out too. Yes. Something for you to think about too.
Oh, yes.
So thank you for that. We look forward to keeping you posted, as I try to do all the time with press releases, video clips, and anything else that I think of to send your way. So thank you for that. Earlier this year, as part of the 2021 legislative session, we spent considerable time with each of you on the phone, on Zoom, one-to-one, reviewing with the members of the CRC legislation that was proposed by the governor's office as part of the legislative process to form what was called the Canal System Revitalization Act. And as you know, the principal intent of that legislation as presented was to establish a trust that would enable the solicitation and receipt of private and philanthropic donations to support large-scale economic development and community-based projects along the canal. For several reasons, this was not approved and not moved forward as part of the state budget for 2021. And at this time, I would like to reintroduce our Assistant General Counsel, S. Rosito, to give you a prospective look again at what was proposed, just to rehash that, and then we can talk more about it.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Brian.
As I indicated before when Brian introduced me, it's a pleasure to meet so many of you in person. I've been invited here today to spend a few moments discussing the legislation, what it was intended to accomplish from a trust perspective, and what it was not intended to do. There was a lot of sort of miscommunication about that, misunderstandings about what the legislation would do. So I'd like to speak just briefly about that, but most importantly, I want to express my appreciation to those of you who engaged with us on expressing your concerns about the legislation. I think everyone can conclude that sort of the process by which the bill was introduced is not an ideal situation for dialogue, but the dialogue that we did have with many of you allowed us to become more informed about how you think about the canal system, what you think is important, your concerns, and many of you expressed a number of insightful points about the legislation. I think that the most important one in my mind was at the beginning of the bill, how the bill characterized the canal system, and why many of you had some difficulties with that description. I think you made some great points. Basically, just to sort of recap on what we were trying to accomplish is we wanted to create in law a public benefit corporation that would be subject to open meetings laws, oil, things of that nature, public authorities law requirements that would help support and sustain the canal system. It would serve as a focal point for the receipt of donations, things of that nature, grants and other financial assistance from public entities as well as private entities. The bill would have given the trust the authority to create and fund programs and projects. I think the overall intent was to create a program that would help contribute to the revitalization of the canal Recreationway plan, and reimagine canals. Let's go to the next slide. There's a lot of, and I think this was primarily a result of time pressure that under. I just wanted to touch upon what the bill would not do, and what the trust would not do. The bill would not give the canal trust any responsibility to run the canal system or for operation and maintenance of the canal system. It would not, and I've argued with folks about this a number of times, not people here at the table, but other stakeholders. The bill would not give the trust any authority to issue bonds. So I'm not quite sure how that came to the fore. It would not have a power to sell canal property or assets. It would not reduce public accountability, and it would not diminish historic protections that already exist in there. It's not unusual for a bill of that magnitude not to pass the first time around. It was a bit of a complicated bill, and based on my experience, having been in this business for a while, some of the best legislative proposals kind of take some time to season, if you will, and to let sort of the purpose sink in with stakeholders. And there's this engagement that we had with you all about what could be done better in the bill, what was problematic from your perspective. So I'm not at all surprised that the bill did not pass when it was initially introduced, but we're looking forward to try and have another bite at the apple, if you will. The decision on whether to propose a new bill rests with the council's office and the governor's office. So we're kind of in this hold pattern, but we think it's a good idea. I kind of view the bill as creating kind of a two-income household, if you will, for the canal system to help support projects that are important to all of us and interest that stakeholders have in seeing the system preserved. I like to think of it as kind of like core issues: economic development, recreation, historic preservation and recreation. I think that it would really be a no-lose situation for everyone who really cares about the canal. And so we're looking forward to hearing more from you about what you think trust could accomplish, and to work with the governor's office and other agencies to see how we can sort of move that concept forward. So I would encourage you to continue to have dialogue with us about your thoughts and concerns and suggestions about the bill, so that if we have an opportunity to move forward, we can do so in a more informed fashion. Thank you.
Vince, thanks very much. This may be a good opportunity now to open the floor for CRC commissioners and our agency representatives for questions regarding the specific presentations and the speakers that you have already heard, and probably right off the heels of Vince's presentation, it might be best to start with that. So I would again ask those that are on the screen, we would limit it to our CRC commissioners that are here at the table. We will go on to members of the public under general comments later in the program. So Commissioner Bueller, Commissioner Doug Cole, who are on the screen with us, as well as agency representatives David Jerome, Laura DeVetta, Jeannie Leisner, and Fred Bond, as well as the commissioners that are with us here at the table. I think we have the opportunity for a hand-up feature. If you're coming in by Zoom, we can identify you if you have a question. But let's start here with the people that I can see right in front of me. Any of our commissioners would like to speak about what Vince just spoke about, or have a question on it, or any of our other presentations from Caitlin, Rebecca, Angela, Dave, no.
And Mike, if you could just hit stop share for a moment, the red
Yeah.
in the top, then that way we can see each other and
Yeah.
see physical hand raising too. And I did see the note, so I need, to be able to unmute. Thank you.
Who would like to start us off?
Hey, you look at me.
I know it's coming. I just wanted to see when.
I'm happy that we're meeting. This is a good start of perhaps another phase of the CRC's importance to the canal. But I am, and it's going to take a long time before I'm not hurt by the fact that it's been almost 3 years before, and I'm going with NIPA. NIPA has ignored us. That's how I feel. And I don't know why. So my question is, why?
So focus, your question is, why has it been nearly 3 years?
Yeah,
or,
COVID was one of the issues, I suppose, but we could have, I could have met online.
I can begin that, but I'll certainly turn to my colleagues to support that further. I think that when we last convened in November of 2018 at the Red Mill, we did so under the auspices of not only a Canal Recreationway Commission meeting, but a stakeholder update in general. We had other stakeholders there too to talk about where we were headed with the reimagined plan. And I think we were anxious to get the reimagined task force report finalized and submitted to the governor's office, and to see where that would go following that. What transpired in the years after that, I can't really account for. But things happen. So there has been a hiatus, but I think the intent was to focus on, take a pause and to focus on some of the reimagined legislative initiative that went through, that was introduced, that was adopted, and then the report came out as part of the 2019 State of the State address to lay out the framework for their reimagined. But I'll defer to Rebecca and Caitlin, if you want to chime in.
I think just as I said in introductory remarks, as we reconvene as a group, this is the space to have that productive dialogue. And Dan, I appreciate your candor and, raising what I think is written on everyone's faces, and it's the right time to have that conversation. I think Brian exposed a lot of what was happening. There was momentum around, reimagine the canals and the regional efforts, the topical efforts around working groups that were focused on that effort. I think there's also, when we looked at the asset management slide that Dave shared, I think there was also a sense of magnitude of the asset management piece at hand. NYPA is not a retail business. We've not really done much in terms of customer facing programs. I worked on one very small business effort, and it was a big, growth opportunity for the company to do anything customer facing. And I think that was a period of significant adjustment, understanding the system of assets, their condition, what it really takes to make a safe working environment for those that are, actually tradespeople working at the lots. But that's only a piece of the puzzle. It's more dynamic than that, and that there was that shift in focus around recreation, and that ultimately the CRC was going to set aside during that period.
Right, at a time when reimagine was the catchphrase, that was where a lot of the energy was going. All this reimagining was done without the input of the CRC. When you say this is the magnitude of the problem or the magnitude of the job, caught you perhaps by surprise, that's what we're here for. Yeah. That's sort of our purpose, is to assist, to get you up to speed, to be the liaison between the public and Canal Corp / NYPA. And that's what we're here for. That's the purpose of why we're here, which makes it even more incredible that it took almost 3 years. And again, point is well taken. And there's things that are very important. The bicentennial, we had a plan. CRC had a bicentennial plan, and it's, for whatever reason, has been tabled. I don't really know the status of that plan. We sort of get laughed at because our canal plan is 25 years old and hasn't been revisited. Well, we started to revisit, and then it got tabled. And it's a lot of effort. We're not paid to do it. We're volunteers. We put the energy in. And then to just be dismissed is very gut-wrenching. So again, I'm positive. I'm going to end positive, saying we're here. We don't have masks on. We're looking at each other. Most of us, some are on TV, but I hope it's the beginning of something very, very positive. But there's a sour taste in my mouth.
Well, I think we earn that. We earn trust and credibility by going forward too. And this is one meeting of many to come, many to follow. So we'll have the opportunity to bring this conversation forward as we continue to go back to look at the work that the CRC did on the 2025 plan, the draft plan, was in draft stage. This meeting is off the table. So we'll have the opportunity to look at that the reimagined plan and the other things. It's a fluid process, like everything, of course, along the canal. We tackle the challenges and we go forward. So you're right on, and we need to be Commissioner,
Thank you, Director Stratton. Very hard to return to normal quarterly meetings. Very hard to see us back together. It's very important celebrating, getting back on track with our bicentennial plans. We spent many full days at the Red Hill Inn back in 2016, 2017, laid out some visioning for what is now to be celebrated as the Empire State Trail. I'm so excited, just ecstatic that the Empire State Trail is now in full fruition. To our credit, to the administration's credit, to all agencies' credit, all representatives, all parties, all stakeholders, united in this great piece of jewelry, united the state from western shores, the Hudson and Champlain valleys, and with the South and the Valley coast. That's something really worth celebrating. And tying that in with our bicentennial vision that we laid out 5 years ago, it's been a hellish 2020. That's a big part of seems up the way. So very hard, once again, it's been a positive glass more than half full, and a good drink to be shared by all statewide with our great assets. Economic assets unparalleled. One important point I'd like to get on the table is the importance of context. Our study back in 2014 on economic benefits, non-tourism, heritage tourism, of course, is key and huge. The study by CHA and the Jacobs Civil Consultants from Strauss-Weider cites $6.3 billion annually. That's a key number, $6.3 billion, to offset some of the challenges that we see correctly in our infrastructure, challenges with 100-year-old infrastructure designed out for 50 years in some areas. Excellent to keep a keen focus on capital needs for our infrastructure, but context is imperative to understand the priceless value. And by the good studies, over 9,000 jobs in the state, 1.7 billion in annual wages, benefits, and income earned. The bottom line number to remember, 6.3 billion annually. And this is 8-year-old data. It's probably up a bit since 2014 issuance of the study. So with the vision we laid out 6 and 5 years ago together, we have a lot to celebrate. So I will close with this. Keep it in context.
You want to point out some of those parts of that $6.3 billion: hydropower, manufacturing, processing, irrigation for farms, golf courses, everything that that you don't see, that we don't visibly tout along the canal. Yes, it's a wonderful recreation corridor, but it provides so much more, and that's what that study meant to really quantify. So when we talk about the cost, it's an expensive system, it's an old system, but it is a very valuable system that really generates a lot of
priceless in its industrial value, research and development value, agriculture mentioned, quarries and mining, public water supply, the hydropower value. I must appreciate. I would chime in that, without the dams all along the system, particularly at Cohoes, Waterford, all the lifts and drops, would not exist. A lot of that hydropower was marketed, a lot of it's hydro back, Brookview with the hose falls, but these values need to be kept in mind, and those were not touched in this 6.3 billion value either. This is a non-tourism aspect, but it does touch on the hydropower. So it's a key study to remind ourselves of how far we've come. Keep the big picture in mind, the high altitude, the planner's view from 10,000 altitude, and what we have as cause to celebrate and share is the great advantage of our Empire State. And the Empire Trail and our canal system is a true arterial corridor, and the preservation value is benefit above cost many times over. So while there are significant challenges and some unexpected challenges, some extreme weathers, climate change, resilience is a key word to keep in mind also. I just wanted to share that excitement, the context of what we have to celebrate going forward.
You haven't had the opportunity to look at that is on our website, on the Canal Corporation website. I actually Googled it. If you Google non-tourism economic impact study, New York State canals, it will pop up. So it's on there. Take a look at it. You're right. It's eight years old, but it's compelling data and worthy of looking at again. Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. I love what you said, Steve, putting it in context. And getting back to your point earlier, Vince, about the sort of the preamble to the canal trust legislation. And, I was reading it and I was getting bummed out. I'm like, well, this isn't worth saving. Why are we doing this? because we're doing it and I'm doing this as a volunteer, thank you very much, so that my great grandchildren can enjoy the canal the same way that I do. We got the days filled with all the assets, 2,800 assets that are just deteriorating. They're 6,000 years old. It's worth saving, and I think if just in a small way, if you had presented, if that legislation was presented with the energy and enthusiasm, and this is worth saving. Right. We got people sitting around the table that want to work on it, as opposed to there's no commercial traffic. It costs us so much money. What a bummer. And I would love to see that positive, we can do this together. And yes, I know we got to reimagine. We're reimagining everything in the United States now, right? Just reimagine everything. We need to move forward, and I get that. And we can be brought along. Some of us older folks, we can be brought along, and rethink things. But I want to be here so that my kids, my grandkids can enjoy this. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah, I could say your message has been heard loud and clear.
So maybe it's not such a bad idea, right? Set up a trust, you get more people.
There's no reason that it shouldn't go forward, but as you say, we have to put it in the proper context and direct the focus of the effort where it belongs.
So that was my one comment. Thank you. My one comment today. There's a million of them, but we don't have time.
You don't have to. That doesn't have to have your last comment on either. So thank you.
Can I follow up on
yes.
that? Yes. To Cal's point as well, I mean, legislation, maybe it's not so bad, it's how it came and when it came. I wonder if perhaps there couldn't be, if there's going to be an effort to reintroduce it, and I totally agree, one time out generally doesn't do it, that if there could be some kind of an organizational chart, for lack of a better word, to see where everybody fits in and what the CRC, what its role would be in this too, because it's a big thing, and it's a lot to digest.
Okay, that's a great idea. We're going to go up to the screen. Commissioner Ken Roller has had his hand up, I think, either electronically or actually visibly. Ken?
Yeah, I was just trying to get, I was in the chat room saying we need to be unmuted, but they've got it solved now, so thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I support a lot of the conversation that's going on here. We are trying to stay very positive and making some investments. We've done some intercoastal LWRP planning in Orleans County. Jackie Sherlinger helped us get it out of DOS, Department of State, in its review, preliminary review. Medina, as you know, Brian, you've been there along with the Lieutenant Governor and what's going on there. So we're very excited about the opportunity, and Reimagine the Canal. It's been a great exercise. I was in the room a number of times. So we just need to start here and move forward. Relative to the trust, I think it was great, the slide of what it didn't intend to do, because it was very foggy, caught up in the budget process. So I think we need to spend some time on it, understand it, and this canal is worth saving. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner DeRoller. Well said. Staying with the point of the trust, obviously the process is absolutely key. And again, it is not necessarily our call when it comes back, if it comes back, but in the essence of talking about what might be positive for us, what would you like to see in it? If it is introduced, obviously you want a clearer understanding of what the role of the CRC, as previously proposed, it limited to 3 CRC commissioners, if not eliminated the CRC as an organization. That is not the intent. But the aspects of raising funding for large-scale economic development projects, not capital projects, not blocks and bridges and the things that we need to do, that NIPA will do, and the Canal Corporation will do. But the action projects. Those are the types of things that we want to do. What do you want to see there? And how do you think that it could benefit us? So this is your opportunity, and again, we can talk more about it as we get closer. We'll have another meeting in the fourth quarter, October, November, but obviously we're already planning now for what the 2022 legislative session will be. So today's conversation is absolutely relevant. So I would throw that out to you if you want to add comments about that. Commissioner Stetson.
I don't know that I'm going to answer your question directly, but I think just from, so I got my letter about being appointed onto the commission approximately 24 hours before Ryan called me to talk about the trust. And I was like, I'm glad to hear this information, but I also don't really know what you're talking about much at all. And I thought that I, perhaps because I was so new to the commission, that was why I didn't know exactly what was being talked about. But I later gathered that everybody was as blindsided as I was. And I think that this is kind of a theme in my whole life right now. This idea of communication, transparency, and honesty is essential for good relationships. And that's what we have here. This is the relationship between the community and canals and NIPA. And from where I have sat, and I kind of intentionally, in my role as the director of the Erie Canal Museum, try to stay out of too much of the weeds. The museum is a precious asset to be protected, and everybody seems to agree with that. And so we don't tend to get involved in too much of the weeds, I'll put it. But so from where I kind of sit in that kind of neutral place, it seems that there is some trust building that needs to occur between the canal community and NIPA. And I think that I'm hearing that everybody is on the same page there. And so I'm hoping that that means that we can all move forward together and that nobody's going to be blindsided in the future. Because rebuilding trust is hard, so let's do it only one time and then keep moving forward. And I'm glad, I feel very honored to be considered, to having been considered and to have a place at this table. Because the canal does need to be, it's worth saving, it's worth protecting, it's worth investing in. It's an amazing asset for this state. I will also say that I fully recognize the canal is not perfect. All of its contributions to the state are not good things. There are challenges in its existence that we can't ignore, we shouldn't ignore, but there needs to be compromise and discussion and transparency. And so I think as far as the trust bill being reintroduced, I think just placing the table is what I ask.
Do you think, Natalie, that obviously we meet quarterly, but if this is another legislative proposal, how would you like to see it publicly vetted as opposed to a phone call after it comes out? I mean, is there an opportunity for public input, those types of things? What do you think would be useful there?
That's a good question. I don't know that I know. I do think that quarterly probably would not be enough because that would be like 2-3 meetings before it might be introduced again. And almost just so I very much enjoy the emails that you and Kim send, kind of keeping us up to date about what's happening. Something even along those lines that's just as simple as email communication saying this is the conversation that's happening. Do you commissioners and the networks that you belong to have any feedback to just kind of keep us up to date as progress goes on? Because I recognize that putting a meeting like this together on a monthly basis would be complicated. It takes a lot of effort to get people in the same room or even in the same Zoom room. But I think we have technology on our side and just having open dialogue. And I love having things in writing so that if I have a question, I can go back and see what was discussed before. So I think even just the email correspondence could be beneficial.
You can certainly do that. I mean, obviously, there's no limit on keeping you up to date, and we certainly will. You will know a timely fashion if there's an opportunity or if that comes up. Again, we don't know what the timetable will be, and it's really falls really not in our court. It was governor, it was initiated, and the governor will look at that, but it wants to do that again.
Yeah, essentially, it was the governor's Article 7 bill, which means it's one of our budget bills that is attached with our budget negotiations to the annual budget. I am so thankful that we're here and that you all came to the table so we can have these conversations going forward, not just about the trust legislation, but overall with Reimagine operations across the canal system. You know it best, and you are really a part of the better understanding that we want to achieve, and better communication and working on building the trust back with you all. I can say time and time again that the governor's office, Canal, and NIPA remain committed to the canal, but it's also working on building these relationships and continuing to have the CRC meet and to have meetings with stakeholders, local communities, governments along the canal way, to hear from your perspectives as well of what you're seeing, how we can be helpful, best practices going forward. Not only do we have, budget session and legislative session kicking off in January, but we're also starting the state of the state process where the governor reviews a bunch of policy proposals from across all of our agencies. So it's also hearing from you all and NIPA and Canal about what can we be doing better? How do we really bring about a better state? And with more creativity and ambition, we can do it. So I really appreciate that you guys are all talking with us and we can find a path forward.
Just to add it, I think for Cal, to your point, when you're going through the asset slide with Dave, just to speak to the intention behind that, it's not about saying this is a decrepit system or highlighting the aged, condition of some of the assets. It's, I think, the first step toward showing more under the hood and being more open with this commission about what it is we're grappling with in kind of the macro sense. So I just wanted to clarify on that, and that's part of, building our trust again. And what was it? I'm sorry, there's something that Natalie said that I was going to build upon. But I think it's just really, moving to that place where we can have the open dialogue about, what are our business drivers, what are the things that we're contending with, so you can have broader context and not just be the recipient of a message. I think it's about meeting as peers and understanding that there's mutual benefit when we have those conversations.
I think Cal's point was the preamble as it was written in the first draft of trust, whereas everything's rotten. And this is what we have to do, as opposed to this is a great system and we need to make it even stronger.
And I get that, to your point, I get that we have to look under the hood, and sometimes it's ugly, it's like opening up, the door to your family's conversation. It can get really ugly sometimes, right? But words have meaning. Words absolutely have meaning. And when words have shared meaning, they become very, very powerful. And when they don't, you're like, well, I don't share this word's meaning. I don't know what you're saying. And that's really important to remember. When you use those words, it means something to me. It may mean something different to an engineer or to an attorney. So we have to have a shared meaning so that we can move forward.
I think we're in a much better position for having proposed the bill and having that dialogue from you all on it and from other stakeholders that not having proposed the bill at all. We've learned a great deal about your perspective and what support. Certainly, we've heard from others here too, so please, if you have other comments on other talks that you've heard from Angela, Vince, yes.
Yeah, for David Mellon, the slide with all the dots. With lock 07 be one dot, or a lot of the components within the lock, it's one dot. Okay. I would like, just curious, to add another line to your graph, and that is number of employees. Because I think that's gonna follow deterioration. It's not, I'm not an engineer, but I know that this stuff was built really well. And that if it were maintained better by more people, it would have lasted longer.
So to put your point into context, I think Dave's chart spans from 1970 to 2020, correct? Over that 50-year period. Probably under our days of DOT, the Canal Corporation, or the waterways, the equivalent was probably 750 employees or more. At fewer than 500.
At the peak, it was 1,500.
Okay. It was huge back then, as was everything else. I mean, if you want to say that as everything, government and other organizations. But you're right. I think you raise a good point. Respect ourselves are dual, and we've had people aging out of the system too. A lot of expertise going, right? Spending our very best efforts to recruit people into the system. Other questions, comments on anything that yes, I would like to. If we don't have no further, we will go on to new business before we get to general questions. Any new business to come before the commission? No, we'll bypass that. So now we will open it up to general discussion for members of the public and others who have joined us here, both here in Syracuse, in North Syracuse, and those of you who have joined on the screen. We'll begin on our home turf here, and we will take Peter Wiles has got his hand up, and Peter, will you introduce yourself and sure, state your question or your comment?
Yeah, Peter Wiles with Mid-Lakes Navigation, now retired from that. But I definitely was engaged in many of the stakeholders that you referred to that expressed their concern specifically about the legislation. And I'm glad that Caitlin is here today representing the governor's office, because my concerns stem from my personal concern about the purpose of the legislation. I can identify what I'm assuming is the purpose with many aspects of it. The idea of forming a trust for the administration of funds to support the various programs that support the economic development of the canal makes all the sense in the world. But one of the very fundamental aspects of that legislation, which you say was coming from the governor's office, was the elimination of this body that is here today. And I appreciate that they're not going to speak up and say anything about that, but I will, and I appreciate it if you can not answer me, because I don't think you can, and you're not in a position to today, but keep that in mind, that an outsider like me looking at a piece of legislation like this can only pick apart different elements and ask why. And the answers that I come up with was that the representation that the CRC provides is very widespread. The representation described in the preliminary legislation is relatively reduced. So going back to the point about the 2 household income, I think that everybody can see the benefit of a 2 household income. My concern is that the household is being shrunk, is that the people represented by that 2 double income is not as widespread as the current structure. So as the legislation is considered moving forward, I don't know how you're going to get the input from somebody like me that pores over it and has my own personal opinions. I presume it's not going to be, I'm not going to get it from here, but I think that having other people looking at it, somehow a public comment, or I don't know what, will reduce some of the pushback, the concerns, the anxiety, and frankly, in some aspects, the anger of legislation like this going forward. But I appreciate the opportunity.
These are more of a public vetting.
I don't know. It's got to be difficult. But my sense is that what was presented and released as the legislation was not reviewed by a large number of people. It seems to me, just by looking at it, that it was a very focused interest, focused purpose, limited number of eyes on it. And I don't know who those eyes are, and I hope that it wasn't the governor that started with that introduction and thought that getting rid of the CRC was a great thing, and I suspect it wasn't.
Why our terms are expired.
So I'll start by saying,
Yeah.
I'm not an attorney, I'm a senior policy advisor.
Yep.
So I can get into the weeds of the policy, right? The legal, I'll kick it over to you. And we hear you loud and clear. Certainly, if there is a decision, which is well above my pay grade of what would be introduced, it will not be eliminating the CRC. It will not be changing anything NYPA or Canal. It will be working on creating an option similar to, say, the National Heritage Trust or a Friends group that we have with many of our parks, just to be able to fundraise and provide more opportunities along the Canal system. So that was never the intention. There was also in the legislation, the first draft, it was to select members of the CRC to be part of that trust as well. So I know now, and we all do, that it would not ever be consideration of an elimination of the CRC. And there will be much communications with the CRC in the trust if the legislation goes forward, and then also if it is formed, we should be working hand in hand.
Interesting that you brought up the similar to the Erie Canal National Heritage Commission. And I'm just wondering what kind of considerations are you doing and how the two interact? Like, as you're creating legislation, are you reaching out? I guess I put that on and say us, so I don't officially ask anything. But is there input from these different entities?
I'm just thinking like a model, right? A trust that
But,
can help. raise
my
money.
point is that a model without the context of how the two fit together is just saying, okay, we're looking at an a la carte menu and I like baked beans, so I'm gonna go with baked beans and not have any idea how it relates to anything else. And I know that you can't answer this, I just appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I appreciate the dialogue and that we can talk it through and find best practices going forward. That is the intention here, right? We're all coming to the table to talk this through.
Katie, do you think that if this legislation were to be reintroduced, that we could know about it?
So the
Is that-
process hasn't even really begun yet for that, so we're still months away from any of that.
So there's no more clarity necessarily with our next meeting.
I mean, I certainly will keep this as all of the intentions of the CRC and what the goals are for next talking points and discussion. I just don't know if people would have this.
Thank you, Peter. Greg.
Just to thank Director Stratton for his efforts on behalf of the Dave Heckenbach over the past year. It's nice to see that several thousand tons are still on the table of that mental image. For the Canal Society, which I represent, that's a very important vote that we hope could fill a role for the bicentennial. We invested several $100,000 in that. And the Feds did $3.2 million in that, and clearly demonstrated its role in the 2009 Hudson Fulton celebration. So just want to thank you for kind of keeping that going. I know we have plans that kind of got derailed by the pandemic, but
Caitlin, you don't know that they was a vintage motor ship that was built especially at the beginning of the barge canal for the dimensions of the lock. It's so huge that it fits up the entire lock. There's several of them made, several of these motor ships. This is the last remaining of its kind. It's absolutely huge, and it's received a lot of love and a lot of attention, but it needs a final mission. And we're looking at opportunities with that, with the heritage and the story of that great legacy of our canal system can carry on, whether it's at the Buffalo waterfront, the Utica waterfront, or up and down the canal. So Greg is very passionate about that. I'm surprised that he's thankful that he's actually limited his comments today to just that one topic. But it's a worthy topic. So Greg, thank you for bringing up the day.
Thank you.
Members of the public that would like to speak. Anyone on the screen from the public who would like to speak? I can't see electronic hands, but you can wave your hand and we can recognize you. No. Nobody? Just wave your hand if you want to speak and we'll call on you. No? All right, Commissioner Stetson.
I have just a quick question. I was curious if I could get a copy of the draft bicentennial plan the commission put together.
You may get that. That is the Canal 2025 plan that was in draft form. We provide a copy of that. I don't know if it was ever finalized. Did we release it publicly? I suppose if you're a member of the commission and the commission worked on it, you should have a copy. We will get you one.
Thank you.
I know it's a public document, but
I will keep it to myself.
Silence. Yes. I don't see any other comments that are coming forward from members of the public that would like to speak. I think we've given you ample opportunity to indicate your willingness and your desire to speak. I don't see any either electronic or anything in the chat room. So I'm going to move on from that item and proceed to the date and time of our next meeting. It is not yet set, but we have committed to holding quarterly meetings as the statute for the establishment of the CRC holds. So we will abide by that. We will commit to holding quarterly meetings. We are considering this as our third quarter meeting, and we'll go into the fourth quarter meeting, which the fourth quarter begins in October. So anytime from October into November, we are scheduled to close the canal system October 13th. We may have an extension of some of that operation for some providers in the western section, but we'll have more information on that coming. So it may be as we get into the end of our navigation season in October, or as we get into November before the holiday season is upon us. And we will endeavor to have these meetings along the canal system. We think that's important too, as opposed to the temporary conference room at all. Although that might be easier for some folks to come to. We think it's always fun getting out of the canal. We do have many opportunities coming forward. We have some public events coming up. We will do our very best to keep our commission members and the public informed of those so that if your schedule allows, you are able to join us. Some of those, we may have one in Fairport coming up, which will be fun later this summer. So we will give you plenty of ample notice of when we are scheduling our meetings coming forward. I want to take an opportunity to thank Kim Apollo from our Canal Recreationway Commission staff. Kim, wave your hand. Let's organize today's meeting. We have plenty of coffee, plenty of cookies left. Shane has brought in a vacuum car. We have some Canal Corporation masks. Not to jinx all of the recovery or the discussion of whether a third vaccination is needed, but some of you still may have a need to wear the mask, or Dr. Fauci says we may be pulling these out of our bags. So we have these very handsome Canal Corporation masks for you, and I have found that as we get back into into traveling again, get back on planes. If you're traveling overseas, you can use these as a face mask and take your mask. So don't throw away your mask yet, and take a beautiful, comfortable Canal Corporation face masks back with you today. If we don't have any other further comments from the commissioners, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Commissioner Wasikowski, seconded by Commissioner Stetson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.